Welcome to the Smarter Sales Show, your weekly tech tips and technique tune-up for sales professionals who want to sell more and stress less with a special focus on virtual selling. I'm Julie Holmes, and every week I'm here to provide you with some awesome tech tips that will help you to sell smarter. I'm also joined every week by my co-host, Merritt Khan, who will give you specific sound bites, strategies, and sales techniques so that you can stress less and get into action. We're continuing on our series of 4 episodes around relationship and rapport building in a virtual world. If you're new to the show, we pack a ton of bonus content on our free resources page. So click the link in the show notes or in the attachment section if you're watching us on the Sales Experts channel. If you're ready, and I know you are, let's get smarter in sales.
Let's definitely do that. We know that sales is about relationships. We know that all things being equal, people do business with people that they like and know and trust, right? We've heard that for eons. And so then we know that you want to be somebody that people can know and like and trust. The question is, how do you really do that in a hybrid world? I guess,
free gifts.
With what?
Free gifts.
Free gifts. That's always a good thing, right?
Donuts
work. Absolutely.
Wine. Of the month club.
Yes. Chocolate. That's my personal favorite. You want to get to my heart, send me chocolate, dark chocolate, high quality dark chocolate. That builds relationship and rapport. Absolutely. I'm going to apologize in advance. I got the vid, Julie. I got the vid.
Oh, well, you still look good. That's all that matters.
Thanks.
Blame your kids.
Yeah, for sure. I am blaming my kid. He got it. I got my vaccine on Tuesday. He got sick on Wednesday. I was down for the count by Friday. Whatever. It's almost like, I had FOMO. Like, wait, the pandemic's almost over. I didn't get it yet.
Well, I'm glad that you are feeling good enough to be here with us today.
Well, this is a very important topic. And I think that as I was thinking a lot about this, we could talk for hours and hours about interpersonal relationships and how you really connect with people and build rapport. And back in the early days of my training 20 plus years ago, I used to teach matching and mirroring, which was so fun. Imagine going to the bar with me when we were young and single. Now I'm just old and single, but back then was really fun. And I would practice my matching and mirroring from across a crowded room, and just see how good am I at building rapport.
Wow. I don't want to say we need to get a life, but I think maybe we need to get a life.
Well, it was fun. It was fun back then. But what I have come to realize in my wisdom and age is that the first and most important relationship we really need to focus on building is the one that we have understanding ourselves. So I think before we look at how to build that external relationships with other people, we really want to look at what are the things that draw people to us when we are strong from the inside out. And so last episode, season 2, episode 14, Julie shared the 10 tips to shine as a sales rep on Zoom. And that is incredibly important. If you haven't listened to that episode, you definitely want to do that, because you want to be so good at the technology, the delivery model of that communication, that it doesn't get in your way building connection and rapport with other people. You just kind of have to be good at it in the background.
But I think there's another point to that too, Merritt, which is that if you're worried about tech, you are not focused on your prospect.
Exactly. And the key thing to remember is that we relate to human beings through emotion. How we connect to people is through technology, but relating and forming relationships is always going to be about emotions. So what I want to really talk about today is top 5 emotional intelligence attributes for top performing sales professionals. Now, think of this as like the ingredients of baking the most amazing cake you've ever had, because it's these ingredients that really come together to make us strong and to draw people into us. So without further ado, are you ready for the top 5, Julie?
I am ready for the top 5.
All right. Self-actualization, independence, self-regard, optimism, and assertiveness.
Okay, I think I have a couple of those.
Yes, you absolutely do. You absolutely do. So let's break these down. Self-actualization is super important if you want to draw people to you and create good interpersonal relationships. What it is all about is it's that ability to, it's that quest for self-improvement. It's, I'm happy and satisfied with who I am and how my life is and what I've accomplished. And yet I'm still striving for more. So,
okay. So it's your ambition.
Yes.
So like
yes.
a healthy level of ambition.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And I think what really makes it's more than just business and money ambition. It's really about, getting good at other things in your life. So if you're passionate about surfing or dog training or comedy writing, then it's improving in those areas where you're passionate about as well. And if you think about it, sorry, were you going to say something? You have that.
I was just going to ask. I was just curious. So self-actualization, that's the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Is it the same kind of thing?
Yeah, it really is. It's like it's being happy with where you are, knowing you can accomplish more. It makes you well-rounded, right? So you're right. I mean, it is the top of the needs, right? So we're not talking, if you're listening to this podcast and you're dealing with like food, water, and shelter, like you can shut us off, go handle those things, right? Like let's get the bottom of the pyramid just handled. Now, as you go up the ranks, you really want to, it's about like, how much can you learn? How much can you grow? Because you have more to offer in that capacity. So one of my favorite authors on this topic is Carol Dweck. So if you're watching us on the Sales Experts channel, I'm holding up her book right now. It's called Mindset.
I love how you always have props.
I have
Go Vanna.
Right? So her book is called Mindset, Carol Dweck, Dweck. And what I love about this book is that she really talks about a growth mindset as contrast to a fixed mindset. So a fixed mindset is, I don't like what I would say to you at the beginning of the pandemic. I'm not good with technology. Well, that's a fixed mindset that is going to get me stuck. And you got me by the neck and said, no, Merritt, I've seen you learn other things and you'll be able to learn this. And so then I shifted my mindset. I reminded myself of Carol Dweck's book and I was like, okay, I'm going to have a growth mindset about this. So my coaching to all of our audience today is really expand your thinking. Like make sure your mindset is conducive to you building relationships with people in whatever delivery model makes sense in the world that we're living in, right? So it's just self-actualization is a really important attribute just to be able to have more to offer, right? Like,
yeah. And I think, like I was actually talking to somebody this week, and one of the topics that came up about their sales team, because we were talking about their sales team and some of the challenges they were facing, was whether they were dealing with an abundance mindset or a scarcity mindset. So I think it's very similar to that, right? This idea of, are you focused on what you have to work with or on what you don't have to work with?
That's, well said. That's a great point. And that's a perfect application for this. Like, if you are coming from a scarcity mindset, think about from the other person's perspective. Do you want to be in a relationship with someone who comes from that scarcity place? Do you want to, do you look at that person like a trusted advisor that you want to do business with? Probably not. Like we don't want those people around us. That's, if you're in sales with a scarcity mindset, you're going to struggle. You are going to have such a hard time. That's why you could learn all the sales techniques and all these cool tech, but a scarcity mindset won't have you in action with any of that. So lean into what you can do to grow that self-actualization score. And where I would challenge you to start is start with a passion. And it doesn't have anything to do with business. I am passionate about stand-up comedy and writing. And for most of the pandemic, I was really frustrated because there wasn't a place to perform stand-up comedy and I wasn't getting that need met. And so I signed up for a class and I worked with a coach, and now I'm flexing that muscle. And I'm seeing that my conversations in business are richer. I'm more in my element. I'm more creative because I'm nurturing that other part of me.
Yeah, I can see how that would, when you have that thing that you really enjoy and you're investing your time and your energy in it, it just makes you happier.
Exactly.
And it makes you more open to doing other things because you are, I love it. I love it. The self-actualization. Very nice.
Thank you. I
like it. And it justifies all the time and money I spend on dog training.
Well,
so I'm going to tell my husband that I'm doing it as an important part of my job.
Exactly. Hold please while I stop myself from choking. Woo! Okay. Let me go on to number 2. Number 2 is independence. So think about this. You've probably heard at some point in your career, like, the customer is always right. Have you ever been in a situation, Julie, where the customer was not right about what they thought they needed to solve their problem?
Absolutely. We call that delusion.
Exactly. So a good, strong salesperson, a sales professional, somebody who is really a trusted partner and not just a vendor, is going to have to be independent. They're going to have to stand in their own power, stand on their own 2 feet, and not be afraid to say, with all due respect, that is one way to solve the problem. And if you're open to it, let me make some other offers for you. Let me show you some other opportunities that may be a more direct way, a better way, an additional way for you to consider to solve this problem. Now, I can teach you that language all day. I can give you a script to recite. But at the end of the day, if fundamentally you don't feel like a strong, independent, self-directed professional, those words won't come out of your mouth. You're gonna say, well, that makes sense. This is a good solution, but your idea works too. And then that places a seed of doubt in the prospect. Remember, we talked about they want to be able to know, like, and trust you. Well, if you make a recommendation or you are having a sales conversation and they feel like they can't trust you, it's over. It's over.
And or if they feel like you're just parroting them.
Exactly.
Everything I say, you just go, yeah, sure, we can do that. Oh, I'm sure we can figure it out. Oh, and who's not going to love that is all of the people that have to support your sale.
Right? Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So kind of that position of strength and confidence in what you're selling, who you are, and kind of the boundaries within which you exist and kind of sell from.
Yes. Oh, excuse me. Hold on.
I think when it comes to, and I'll just talk over Merritt, who's muted and coughing now. When it comes to that kind of independence and self-direction, one of the things that I think is really important from a sales perspective is that by being that kind of, I want to say mature, but not like in an age-related way, but being that kind of mature, sensible, balanced person that a client interacts with, that naturally makes them feel more confident in working with you. Yes. They want somebody who feels sturdy and centered and stable, and somebody who's not wishy-washy.
Exactly.
At least I do, for sure.
Exactly. Now, what you're talking about is a nice dovetail to number 3, which is self-regard. So there's just a distinction between independence and self-regard. So self-regard is speaks to that confidence and self-respect. It's a little different than self-esteem. And how I describe this is self-regard emanates from the inside out. Self-esteem is something you look for from the outside in. So in other words, if my parents or my, colleagues are always telling me, gosh, Merritt, you're great. That's nice, but that's trying to get my need for approval from the outside. Like if I only feel good when other people are telling me I've done a good job, that's self-esteem. That's increasing or decreasing self-esteem. Self-regard comes from the inside out. So I know I did the work. I studied. I have the chops in that area. Like I have confidence in my own abilities, and that resonates from inside out. And that is something that is incredibly attractive for prospective clients and customers, because they are relying on your confidence. They're feeding off of that. They want that. And so now we do have to be careful not to go overboard with that either, because you don't want, to become like the know-it-all and no one likes that guy, right? So the difference between self-regard and independence is self-regard is like, I can feel confident. Independence is I'm clear that I can articulate and say, this is the right way to go. Like I can assert that. So that's,
and then does self-esteem feed self-confidence potentially?
It can. You just have to be really careful with it. Mm-hmm. So self-esteem is a little bit like, the problem can be that you start to rely on it and then you need the approval. Oh. When you need approval of others, you are less likely to do the right thing, because if it might make someone uncomfortable or, in any way feel bad or have them not like you, you're not going to go that route. So I can remember back in my days as a sales manager a number of years ago, I had a couple of different sales folks I had a whole sales staff. And there was one guy in particular who was, he had a high need for approval. And I remember just very distinctly one, Monday morning meeting, and it was like, how did everybody, how was everybody's weekend, right? And this guy was so proud of himself because he had been invited to a family picnic for one of his prospects. And he went on and on and on about how he was, like invited to this family event. And I'm thinking, great. So when can we expect that order? And he was like, oh, I don't know. We certainly didn't talk about that then. I'm like, okay. So when you have the follow-up meeting to talk about the business, what happened? Oh, I don't have any follow-up meetings. Like he just wanted to be everybody's friend.
Yeah.
And my perspective was, I'm your sales manager. I want you to close some business. Like, let's go. And so, that was, I don't know, just a little offshoot story that I can't remember the point of that because it got lost in my coughing somewhere.
That's all right. So I think it comes back to, right. So that confidence and self-respect, when you exude that confidence and self-respect, and that's coupled with your independence, it makes you just really trustworthy.
Yes. Yes.
That is my summary of everything you just said.
Well, let me go on to number 4 then. Number 4 is optimism.
Yay!
You love this one. And I think most people would expect that optimism would be on the top 5 list of attributes for top performing sales professionals, because, honestly, if we don't see something good happening, if we don't have a positive outlook on life, let's face it, this business is too fraught with rejection. if you take that personally, if you don't kind of say like, okay, well, that was a no, but the next one will be a yes. We know that we're not going to set meetings with every single person that we have a discovery call with. That's fine. But you've got to be able to have an optimistic outlook about what's next, about the possibility that you are creating. And that gets you in action, doing more activities that will lead to a positive outcome.
And tell me if this is a fair application, Mary, but I would have to believe that part of that optimism extends to your prospects and what you're going to be able to deliver for them. Like you have to be able to communicate to them, working with us, working with our products, our services, like this is going to be great for you. Let me paint not the perfect picture, but let me paint the optimistic picture of success of where you're headed. And you're selling the vision as much as you're selling your product and service.
Yes, I agree with that. You just have to be careful when you do that in the sales process.
That's
so
fair.
If you do that too soon, then it's going to sound pushy.
Okay.
But if you give them a chance to discover for themselves that they are really in pain, that they really have an issue that is important enough for them to solve now, and that they've got the budget and the decision, like I want to know that that they are going to take action so that they can get to that positive result. But I don't want to get someone so excited about the positive outcome if I don't know that they're going to do what it takes to get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Is it a little bit too, if we're talking about, how these, emotional intelligence attributes attract relationships and attract rapport, is it safe to say that your optimism comes out as kind of either an Eeyore or a Tigger, right? Like, are you like, yeah, this is awesome, let's do this? Or are you like I guess we could do this. Like nobody really wants to hang out with Eeyore.
I think that's a good way to sum that up. Yeah, you definitely just want to be that person that other people want to be around. But I do want to say you want it to be natural and authentic. Because if you've ever been around someone who's kind of turning it on,
oh yeah,
you can smell that a mile away.
So maybe more Winnie the Pooh than Tigger.
Yeah. Let's go with Winnie the Pooh. See, the thing is, if these attributes are strong for you, it will shine through regardless of the delivery model. And if these attributes need improvement, then it doesn't matter that you know all your Zoom settings or you use cool video email tools. Like it's just not going to come across. So if I'm, Eeyore on my video email, you're gonna be like, well, that wasn't very fun to watch, but if I'm like, hey, things are looking up and and I don't know if we should do business together, but it definitely makes sense for us to talk. Here's my number. Let's set up a time. That's positive. You're intrigued. You want to be around more of that energy.
And I think what you're saying is a good point, by the way. It is a natural tendency for people to shut down in front of a camera lens.
Yeah.
And it feels like, I can remember, so I was a DJ on radio stations when I was in college, and like not college radio, but like proper, citywide radio, and an FM channel, not like some crazy AM talk show. No, like an actual music channel. The point is that when I first went into radio, I'd been speaking for a long time at that point. And when I first went into radio, I was terrible because I was talking to myself, and you feel like an idiot talking to yourself. Imagine that those people that you hear on the radio that sound so excited, there's nobody in that little box with them. They're just on their own. Like, this is great. I'm having an awesome time by myself in a little tiny box, which is crazy. But what you have to do is to remember that you're reaching across that platform to somebody else. And what is it that they're hearing?
Yeah. I think that's a great example of that, and And that's a lot of times, I mean, that's how we're feeling on these video meetings, particularly if somebody has another camera on. And so you still have to be upbeat and, optimistic and assertive and independent and self-confident. And it can rattle you a little bit. But, I just want to say very clearly, like, the delivery model, don't let that get in your way. Talk to a camera, whatever it is, it's these things, it's creating a vibe, it's creating a mood. And so just be aware that you want to set the right tone for a business transaction, which leads me into the fifth important attribute, which is assertiveness. Assertiveness is so important.
No.
That's cute, Julie. Very cute.
I crack me up.
You crack me up.
Assertiveness. Oh wait, I missed the non-offensive part. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's about non-offensive communication. So assertive people are able to say what needs to be said without ruffling any feathers. It's not about being aggressive. And a lot of times when I'm training, when I'm coaching clients on the topic of assertiveness, or I'm working with a sales team, and they have some real concerns about, we don't want to be pushy or aggressive. And then I say, okay, great. Well, let's talk about how to be assertive. And they're like, whoa, we just said we don't want to be aggressive. And I'm like, yeah, I heard you, but we want to be assertive, not aggressive.
You were being assertive when you told them that.
Exactly. And one of the things that I love, one of my favorite one-liners is, how do I tell you something you don't want to hear without you getting mad at me? It's such a great line, because of course somebody's going to say, oh, no, just say it. And then I might say it again, like, no, you're really not going to want to hear it. Okay, Merritt, just say it. Well, what is it? Like, now they're like, they can't wait for it. And then I can deliver the bad news. And it's like, hey, you said you want, like, that solution isn't going to work. Like, that part, if we only do that first part of the project, if I only give you an emotional intelligence assessment and we don't do that one-on-one debrief, like, you might as well not do it. In fact, it's more like, I could be doing more harm than good by not going through a debrief so that you can see it through trained eyes. Like, that's malpractice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, being able to be assertive is a real skill. And that's one of those things I think that separates just a salesperson from a real professional, to be able to say, this is what you need. This will solve the problem. I get it. You don't have to say this, but this would be in your mind. Like, you come from a world where the customer is always right. That ain't the case. And here's the right solution. So know, like, and trust. These are the attributes that describe the person that gains, that earns that know, like, and trust quality that people are drawn to. These are the building blocks to be someone who conducts themselves in that way.
Yeah. And I think, this is probably a good time for us to just take a little moment, because I know that you are working with select sales. And if you've never been through emotional intelligence training or an assessment or anything like this, if you've never done anything with emotional intelligence and you're in sales, you are missing a huge, huge, insightful opportunity to better understand yourself, your style, and where to bolster your skills. It never ceases to amaze me how much time so many teams that I've worked with in the past, including teams that I've been on, where we've spent an inordinate amount of time working on skills.
Yeah.
Like, here's how we do, this form, and here's how we fill out, who our buyer personas are. And here's how we map the relationship in the sales cycle. And not nearly enough time, in my opinion, is spent understanding what our strengths are in terms of communication style and in terms of emotional intelligence, which so nicely blend together. that's probably one of the most important things. So, like, yes, contact select sales and contact merit, because when it comes to emotional intelligence for sales, there aren't a lot of people who specialize in that combination. And Merritt, you, my friend, are freaking awesome when it comes to that. Just saying.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And yeah, let me make it easy for you guys. Take an emotional intelligence assessment. Really get cozy with your blind spots. I will do the debrief with you myself, and I'm going to make it a no-brainer for you and give you a $100 off little coupon code. It's in the attachments. It's on our free resources page. The code is TSSS, the Smarter Sales Show. And so click the link. It's on the show notes, the free resources page, and the attachments. You will be amazed what you can learn. It's interesting because I am currently studying myself. I'm working on my own self-improvement, self-actualization. I'm studying sleep right now because what I noticed was that I wanted to be healthy, right? I want to be healthier, right? We all want to be healthier. And the two areas that we naturally gravitate to are like diet and exercise. Like, what else can I learn about diet and exercise? Well, when I really asked myself, well, what's wrong? Like, what's happening when I don't eat well or exercise well? And the common denominator is those activities. I'm not making the best choices with diet and exercise when I'm tired. When I don't get good sleep, those two pieces fail me. And I think emotional intelligence is very much like that. It's really the foundation that your skills and your tech and all the other things that you learn about how to be a good salesperson, it rests on, what do you know about yourself? What do you need to know? Where do you need to dial up like empathy or assertiveness and maybe dial back something else?
Yeah. So you said it just then, and I was really wondering, can I ask for a bonus? Can I request?
Yes.
Because one of the things that I really enjoy hearing you explain to me again and again, because I need to hear it again and again, is, can you talk a little bit about empathy and particularly how empathy balances with other emotional intelligence attributes? Because I think empathy is one of those things that we're all a little bit, I almost want to say a little bit overwhelmed or a little bit like afraid of. We don't want to appear unsympathetic. We don't want to appear cold or distant or, in disregard for others. But I think that when we're too empathetic, is that a problem?
It can be a problem. Empathy is an interesting one, and that is one of the other emotional intelligence attributes. It didn't make the top 5 list for top sales professionals, but I think in times of crisis or chaos, we would be really wise to amp up our empathy and just put ourselves in another person's shoes, not at the expense of asserting our solution that could solve their problem, but in an effort to meet them where they are so that we can bring them along. If I don't give you that feeling like I really understand where you're coming from and I'm in your world, then you look at me as an outsider as opposed to somebody who really understands. That's why we like people who understand not just our industry, but the pains that happen in our industry, and the specific issues that might, emotional triggers that might keep me up at night. That's why when we talk about on this show, and certainly in the training that we do with Select, we look at how do you describe what you do in a way that will resonate with someone on an emotional level. You can't just say I do sales training. You have to say I work with people and they're so frustrated because it should be easier to get business than it is. That one little soundbite lets you know I get you. So I have empathy for your situation, and I have a solution that I'm going to be able to assert that I can help you with this because I have a positive outlook and I'm going to drag you out of this problem.
I love it. I think I love the idea of having a balance between empathy and assertiveness.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about it before on episodes, and I've found it fascinating, so much so you and I've had a number of conversations about this outside of the show. And it is just one of the most interesting combinations that you can really see pan out when you know what it is, you can listen for it. And it's surprising to me how much you can see in the world where people are trying to balance empathy and assertiveness.
Yeah. There's a lot of really interesting combinations. And I think that's why I'm so fascinated with emotional intelligence. I've been certified to train this stuff for more than a dozen years. And it's always interesting because there's these 15 attributes. They're all interesting in and of themselves,
Yeah.
but the combinations and how they show up and how you recognize them playing out in the real world, that is absolutely fascinating. And it's focusing on just like a couple of little tweaks that can make such a big difference for people. And everything about emotional intelligence can be grown. You can learn, you can focus on it, and you can make improvements in a pretty short order.
It's kind of like the whole awareness thing, right? Like you know, you can't fix what you don't see.
Exactly.
And so you have to have some level of awareness. I mean, it's such an interesting topic. And of course, it's much bigger than even just the 6 that you've shared with us today, right? 15 attributes. I think for me, the one in this particular conversation that's, you know, really stuck with me is really around kind of that difference between self-regard and independence, and even a little bit of self-actualization. But, you know, yeah, those are great emotional intelligence. But the real lesson that I'm kind of taking away, or concept that I'm taking away, is a reminder to myself. And I'm sure that if you're listening right now, if it's not you, you know somebody who definitely needs this reminder that you can go and learn all the tech and all the sales tricks and skills that you want. But if you're not building it on a solid, emotionally intelligent foundation, it's, you know, you're building on shaky ground.
Absolutely.
So, you know, that would be my big takeaway. And the one that, you know, if you needed to hear that, or if you know somebody else who needs to hear that, here's your kind of shout out to go and, you know, maybe share this episode with them, and to talk to them, or talk to your sales manager. If you're a salesperson, talk to your sales manager and look for those resources. Go and take advantage of Merit's offer. I mean, that's my challenge for you, is to go and take that emotional intelligence assessment that Merit is generously offering.
Yeah, the other, I've been working with this client lately. They did an emotional intelligence assessment for all the leaders across their different departments. And as a result of that, we were able to build a profile for them for future hiring, because now that things are opening up again, they're really looking at, we want to make good hiring decisions, but we really want to be very deliberate about the people that we're bringing in, the types of managers that we would be matching up with them. And so it's a really good way to just make sure that you're setting yourself up for explosive growth, and being very deliberate about how you design your teams and how you work with people. So that's another application that has been really, really helpful.
I think that's fantastic. And you know what else is it's when you talk about kind of like those building teams and interacting with others, that's a really perfect segue into next week's episode, because next week we have an amazing interview with Connie Podesta. And we are so excited to be able to feature her on the Smarter Sales Show. She's a Hall of Fame speaker. She's the author of a best-selling book called The Life Would Be Easy If It Weren't for Other People. And we know, and you know, that you've definitely thought that. And she's a therapist. That's right, a therapist and a comedian. So that's kind of awesome in and of itself. But you're going to walk away with some awesome relationship building gold. And you'll walk away with a few chuckles as well, because, you know, you got to keep this stuff funny.
Yeah, that was a great interview. I can't recommend that highly enough. Anyway, we'd love to hear what you have to say about this episode of the Smarter Sales Show, or any episodes that you've listened to. Give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Spotify. That helps us get the show out and connect with other people and be found. We know that you're a very busy sales pro, so just take 60 seconds out of your relationship building day and give us that 5-star review, or write a review. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And don't forget, connect with us on LinkedIn, grab that free content in the show notes and the attachments.
And of course, if you want to work with us directly, which we get questions about this all the time, and you can hear, we've got some fabulous clients that we work with, and we're always looking for more fabulous clients. So whether you need a tech tune-up for your team and you want to talk to me, or you want to get some unbelievable sales training, for example, some emotional intelligence assessments and sales training for your team, and you're going to call Merit, or perhaps you have an event and you want to bring in both of us as the Smarter Sales Show duo in order to deliver a kick-ass virtual or in-person program for your next event, just drop us an email. You can reach us at hello@thesmartersalesshow.com.
Well, that's it for today's episode. I am the emotionally intelligent Merritt Khan.
I am the emotionally stunted Julie Holmes.
No.
Always improving because I'm optimistic. And you have been listening to the Smarter Sales Show. Thanks for joining us.